Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Trackalicious. Hope everybody's doing well. We are here for another round of West Coast Wednesdays, and I am joined by Kusha Terkov. Hello, Kusha. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. Yeah, looking forward to another exciting GT3 race here today.
Yeah, super excited. Hello, Aaron. Welcome. How are you doing? Oh man, I had the perfect sweater for you, but unfortunately it's green, so I had switched it out to my gray sweater. But just for you, I will show you, Aaron, that I was. Yeah, there's a green screened Viper in there, but yeah, it's kind of there, but not really there. Aaron Miller in chat, one of our admins. Hope everybody's doing well. Switched over to the McLaren F1, one of the OGs, the GOAT in my opinion. So, Spa-Francorchamps, the legendary track, and we have a bunch of people on there almost finishing qualifying. So why don't we switch over real quick, Kuja, and get the party started.
Yeah, let's just see what we've got going on here in qualifying. Just under 2 minutes left, so this should be just about the last lap for most of the drivers. We see currently at the top there, Williams in the Ford number 33 machine with a 2:17.420, absolutely blistering lap from the Fords. 4/10 clear of the guy in second place, which is the Lexus of Mills, the number 1 machine. Here we have that pole sitter at the moment, Chandler Williams, going around the final sweeping corners of Sector 2 as he approaches the very quick flat-out section of Sector 3, coming up to the really tight bus stop chicane. Lots of tricky corners to negotiate around this track.
Oh my goodness, Kuja, we are in the 217s for these drivers. Pretty good performance. I don't think I've ever gotten a 17 around Spa. Have you ever gotten a 17 around Spa?
Not that I can remember. Not that I can remember, that's for sure. Yeah, this is an absolutely blistering pace from the guys up front.
And that's a deep 17 too. It's a 17.420 for Chandler Williams. And gosh, I spoke to Chandler the other day. Boy, does this guy have pace. Just gets himself into some situations sometimes, which isn't the best of scenarios, but goodness, dude's super fast.
Yeah, speaking of super fast, just absolutely improved his lap time to a 2:16.797. Now 7/10 clear of the car in second place. This is impressive stuff.
That's insane. 16s is global pace. I know the bestest of the bestest are into the 15s these days, but gosh, Chandler Williams with the 16.7. I think the best I've ever done is low 19, mid 19. I think. I try to avoid Spa as much as I can. I have bad memories here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Spa is a really tricky track to get right. It's just so long that if you get one corner exit wrong, it can cost you many tenths on the straight coming up with just the nature of the track.
Yeah, once we get into some slower parts of the race, I'll talk to you about my experience at Spa and what makes me fear it greatly.
Sure thing.
But yeah, we have a pretty good grid out here. I thought I saw 19 people, down to 18, unfortunately. But hey, that's still enough people to watch a pretty decent race. Jace Wright looking for some improvement on his time, just behind Chandler Williams with a 17.5. Quite a bit to gain if he wants to do anything about it. I don't know if he's valid or not. I'm not sure if this lap is going to count at all. I'm seeing red on my timing charts, but yeah, there we go. He is practicing his pit entry. Now, funny enough, I've seen some pretty funny stuff with Jace right here. Jace got stuck in the entry to the pit, I think it was last season, and had to Austin Powers his way out. It was unfortunate, incredibly unfortunate, but funny as heck if you are not Jace Wright.
Yeah, that is really unfortunate. I remember I had an incident in the pit lane at Spa once where we were coming up to the line and we just couldn't quite pick out the braking points. We were coming in super cautiously, and the car behind us actually bumped us through the pit lane line at a higher speed than the pit limiter.
Oh
So we
no.
ended up receiving a penalty for that, but luckily that got cleared by the live stewarding. I just thought that was absolutely hilarious.
That is super unfortunate. I know exactly what you're talking about, and yeah, sometimes it just happens, and it's kind of sucks, but it happens.
It sure does.
Well, Kuja, let's go through and see who we have on the grid today. Starting in P1 is Chandler Williams and the Please Brake T1 Mustang. In P2, we have Jace Wright in the Iron Dames 2024 car. In P3, we have Josh Mills, who I saw practicing earlier, representing the cult favorite, the Lexus, here on the grid. And fourth, Matt Artem in the Audi, trademark Matt Artem. Kyle Hirsch in P5. Anthony Kelly in the Fear Nothing Moto P6 McLaren. Darren Wicks sporting a black and gold Hertz style Adidas livery. That's a cool one. I haven't seen that one before. Super simple but effective. Darren Wicks in the green light Porsche here in P7. Justin Brackett in the second Mustang on the grid in P8. Curtis Rustin, Derive Motorsport. Give me a little bit of Jensen Button flavor, a little bit of Braun GP, if I may say so. Followed in P10 by Chris Logan in Logan Goes Racing.
In 11th place, we've got Tony Versetti in the lone BMW on the grid today in 11th place. Just behind him, Danny Campbell in 12th in the 720 McLaren. Followed by Daniel Hirsch in the Impact Motorsports number 48 Porsche in 13th place. Joshua Worley behind in 14th. Yet another Mustang on the grid here, the number 47 car. Potts Weaver in 15th in another Mustang here, the number 13 machine with a very colorful livery. Buggy Watt in the Ferrari number 410 in 16th place. Devin Anthony representing the lone Honda on the grid this week in the 664. Don Donovan in the Kessel Racing Ferrari 333 car. Last but not least, we have Alex Freeman, the 19th car on the grid.
And how about that? Perfect timing, Alex joining us to fill the grid up to a full 19 drivers, 50-minute race, one mandatory pit stop with minimum 25 seconds. For those of you who made that mistake last week, it is minimum 25 seconds. So just be aware of that. Looks like someone's missing from, I want to guess that Alex probably had a disconnect, which is why we have an empty spot in the middle of the grid there. But we are getting on the way here at Spa-Francorchamps in lovely Belgium in the middle of Europe. I just so happen to have the fortune of visiting Belgium, and super cool country, some incredible pre-war medieval architecture from some of the places that survived the multiple wars, and really cool culture. I love the people there, very cognizant, very business minded, and you know, some of the folks were like, I was curious as to why they spoke so many languages, and said basically, well, we live in the center of Europe, and it is in our best interest to be well versed in the languages of our neighbors so that we can have a strong economy. I was like, you know what, that 2 + 2 = 4, and that makes sense. So
yeah, Belgium seems like a pretty fun country to visit. Although it is a little small, you could probably visit a fair bit of it pretty quickly. But yeah, I'm sure each little town has so much to explore, a lot of history, as you mentioned, from all the before the wars, probably plenty of castles. I've never been myself, but I would love to go visit one day, and visit this track especially.
You know, it's kind of incredible how different things are in Europe from a distance perspective. Here in North America, whether in Canada or the States, or probably even Mexico, you have to travel a pretty long distance for any significant cultural changes, linguistic changes. Like here, obviously, it's universal where it's mostly English spoken, and even accent changes are a much farther distance than when you're in Europe. I mean, you travel a couple hundred miles, if that even, and you have a completely different language. So just kind of crazy how that works.
Yeah, I hear people from like Italy that people from the north and the south have completely different dialects. So when one goes to the other, they like barely understand each other.
I think they're just being mean to each other. Northern Italians and Southern Italians kind of have a thing against each other.
Fair enough.
I have a bunch of Italian friends, and the Northerners are a bit highbrowed, you know, nose up, look at me type situation, whereas the Southerners are a bit more country folk and more blue collar. So they you know, there's always this oil and water type situation, and it's kind of funny to see.
Yeah, it's funny to see that, like, almost across every country kind of seems to have that kind of debate.
Yeah, the north-south battles.
Mm-hmm.
Literally a civil war in the United States because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kuja, long lap here at Spa-Francorchamps. Technically 20 corners, infamous Eau Rouge Radion, Lecombe, Bruel, Pouan, Blanchiment, insane, you know, put your money where your mouth is corner and make sure that you don't make a mistake, especially if you're going too wide where they're going right now. Blanchiment is like, you know, if you have the guts, let's go too wide. You won't, you know, I dare you. It's kind of one of those situations where you're side by side and really have to determine whether it's worth the risk.
Yeah, it's pretty similar in that sense to the 130R corner at Suzuka, where, yeah, you can pretty much take it flat out, but if you go side by side, somebody's going to have to give way.
Good night, Aaron. Hope to see you soon. Aaron, I know, has spent a lot of time remodeling things at his new house and trying to get his stream set up and his rig set up as we round technically the final corner, but the start here at Spa isn't quite the same as the finish, as they will be rounding La Source T1 before we get going here. And by golly, do I have so much trouble at La Source. I always feel like I'm able to do it maybe once kind of sort of well, and then every other time I fail to match that same pace that I had the one time I did well in it.
Yeah, La Source is a tricky corner. We see that wall kind of goes out, and the braking markers really are far to the left, so they're almost pretty blind to see.
Alrighty, Kuja, lined up 2x2, side by side, holding door handles, getting ready to get fired up, adrenaline at an all-time high, red on the board, but about to flip green as they try to pass the straight here in the start-finish line. And here we go, up into Eau Rouge Radion. Looks like Jace Wright got an incredible start. Chandler not really giving him much room to breathe. These guys going at it, still side by side, multiple cars. Fortunately, no contact, doing a fantastic job as we see the trees blocking our action here. Jace looking for a move, going on the outside. Does send it. Does he manage to make it stick, though? Really good move there. Still side by side between Jace Wright and Chandler Williams. Let's get a closer look. Jace being hyper aggressive there, but within reason, legally so. No contacts, really skillful moves there as Josh Mills looks for an opportunity just behind, and a great start to the race so far.
Yeah, really good move from Jace Wright to try to stick it on the inside into the really first heavy braking zone at Lecombe, but Chandler Williams having a really good overspeed out of the exit and able to maintain his first position from the start. Just behind them, all the other drivers so far maintaining their order down to P4, Kyle Hirsch in P5, Kelly in 6th. Really good battles going on all through up and down the field.
Fantastic so far. It looks like we have a yellow flag. If I remember how to go back here, let's try to capture 664. I don't know who that is. Devin Anthony. What is going on with Devin Anthony? Decides to go 2 wide, 3 wide, maybe with Alex Freeman. Alex Freeman, not the most helpful camera here. Oh, seems to lose it. I feel like that's a Honda thing. I'm not sure if there was any contact there, but really unfortunate for Devin Anthony, and I'm sure he's going to be disappointed about that particular situation. Doesn't look like he has any damage to the back of his car, but is going to be wanting to bump up ahead all the way up back into the grid. Hello, Mutts from Scotland. How are you doing? Very late or early in the morning for you. Hope you're doing well. Here to enjoy some ACC at Spa-Francorchamps. This is the 4th race of the season in our West Coast Wednesday Championship over from the pond in the United States. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, thanks for joining us all across the world. We really appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying this action as much as we are. Still 47 minutes of race to go. Jace Wright still trying to get a move done for the lead, tucking into that slipstream of the Ford in front. Big wing of the Ford trying to punch a hole through the air for the Lambo, but he's not quite going to be close enough to send a move through Lake Home this time around. Just going to try to stay close to that bumper and hope for some kind of bobble or mistake from Williams ahead.
Yeah, quite a few battles on the grid here as we have a redeem to watch Logan's lap. Why am I having trouble finding where Logan is?
Just behind this car,
yeah,
261 Ford.
You know what? It is a very good time to go in, so why don't we go ahead and do that? Let's see how Logan is doing. Chasing down Justin Brackett just ahead.
Yeah, coming up to a really fast downhill corner here. This is Puan, almost flat through this, pretty much flat through the second part. You want to try to stay as close as you possibly can to the car in front, as there's a pretty decent braking zone coming up for a good overlap and a move. But just not quite close enough yet for Logan to try to pull off a move on his fellow Ford in front. Meanwhile, Brackett's got to put himself in a pretty tough position, being in the middle car of a three-way battle. Always tricky to look in front and behind at the same time while also trying to drive your own car.
Yeah, as they go through Curb Paul Fev, I think I said that close to right at least, onto the back straight portion, again onto Blanchiment. The slightest of error is going to have to deal with the aero wash from underneath. A bit of an understeer, manages to deal with it quite well as Logan and Kelly just ahead, and Dan Hirsch up ahead, deep into braking, trying to go side by side, but just not quite enough as they go into the chicane of corners 19 and 20, back on to the start-finish straight.
Yeah, we saw in front Brackett almost trying to pull a move on the McLaren ahead. That slightly opened up the door for Logan behind, but not quite a big enough overlap for any of those cars to pull off any sort of moves for position just yet.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, Logan does stream. And Rocco, maybe if you just post the name, I will shout him out. And for those wondering, oh, I see, that's definitely a cut down in Eau Rouge Radion. But we can, if you post his name, we can do a shout out for Logan for those that want to see his point of view, which you're already seeing here. But Logan does race with a full race helmet and fireproof suit, which I can't imagine how sweaty that's gotta be. Fireproof suits are not the most ventilated of things.
Well, if all goes wrong, in case maybe the PC has some sort of accident, he'll be completely safe from that sort of fire. If any sort of CPU issues arise or any sort of cooling issues, he'll be completely safe from those.
Yes, yeah, Logan is safe in California for sure. If his house is in the hills of California, he's still going to be racing and doing quite fine.
Yeah, with that fireproof suit, especially, you can probably race through anything. Yeah, as we continue on board with Logan, though, still not quite close enough to that Ford ahead just to really pull off any kind of moves. It's a good four-way battle, though, going on from Hirsch to Logan from 5th to 8th place. No driver really wants to make any sort of lunge yet, as there's still plenty of race to go, and we still have to wait for all the drivers to complete their mandatory pit stops as well.
Unrando Stranger misses racing. Who are you supporting today? You joined us before. I feel like we had a significant other with us in Twitch chat before, but I don't quite remember when.
This might be the move for Logan here, pulling up alongside his fellow Ford, able to get his car alongside and in front through the first part, and now has the inside of the second part of the chicane, and that is a great move pulled off from Chris Logan. Gets himself up into 7th place, now going to try to chase down Kelly in the number 7 McLaren.
Fantastic move by Logan. Oh, looking to get it back. Brackett not too happy about that. Not that Logan did anything wrong, but losing a position is always an unhappy moment for a race car driver, whether it be in real life or in sim racing. Brackett looking, trying to make that move back. Now up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Really nice, clean lines for both. Brackett getting a really good exit, choosing not to take the... what's the word? An aerodynamics engineer should know what that is. Draft is what the word that we're looking for is. Choosing not to take the draft. For those who don't know, if there's a car in front of you, you get a huge pull, or more so less drag, because the car in front of you is punching the air away for you to tuck in there and get less resistance for your car to drive through, and it's a huge advantage actually, and you can see that, you can experience that in ACC and in a lot of other simulated games here, or I should say sims. And welcome, Gargle Some Water. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us. An LMU streamer. How was your stream? How are things going? This battle is still intense.
Yeah, still going on, and as you mentioned with that arrow, it's not really benefiting too much on the Ford behind of Brackett, since there is the McLaren pretty close to the front of the 261 Ford, also punching a hole in the air for that Ford. So not quite as big of an advantage to the Ford behind, just because this 4-car battle now almost turning into a 5-car battle, with Rustin joining the mix in the 868 Ferrari in the background, getting ever so closer to the Ford, the number 6 Ford of Brackett. And we'll see if that battle can kind of escalate in the next few minutes as these guys continue to battle. And of course, as you start to battle cars, you can potentially lose a little bit of lap time, so that will benefit Rustin behind.
Yeah, these guys getting pretty close, but the ones that are actually really close back here is the group between Wicks, Campbell, Worley, and Hirsch. Super tight. Looks like of all of them, Josh Worley, Matco, please sponsor me, as Daniel Hirsch looks quite good, tucking behind the Mustang, the significantly larger Mustang, trying to get all of the draft that he possibly can, as in at least in this particular sim, the Porsche isn't known to have the fastest top speeds, but while they're all practically within a second of each other, the cars ahead, the cars behind are going to get advantage of the draft. Now, this is quite the train that we're looking at, all the way from car 21, which is Kyle Hirsch, down to car 13, which is Dan Hirsch. Practically everybody in a Hirsch brother sandwich.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, pretty much any one of these drivers could jump up to any positions with any sort of mistaken front, whether that be just on track or perhaps some sort of pit stop error. Still we have to take into account that there might be different strategies for the drivers. As you mentioned earlier, there is a 25-second pit stop for fuel that is mandatory. However, the drivers could choose to add an extra 5 seconds to their pit stop and take on fresh tires.
Yeah, it's quite the decision. Now, I'm not sure how Spa is. I'm not necessarily the most informed person when it comes to, this is a track where you should take tires and this one isn't, and the weather was fit for it or whatnot. I want to guess. My guess would be that today is not a take tire day. It seems like the conditions are quite optimal, as Worley graciously will be taking a track cut there, I'm sure, with the wide line that he took. But I would suspect that probably going long and going for a full race is going to be the way to go for this particular race today.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, because the tires are normally meant to last almost an hour. There's a battle ahead going on between the 720 McLaren of Campbell and Wicks in the 46 Porsche. Wicks able to stay in front and keep that top 10 position for now. but that battle getting ever so closer behind on the rear wing of the Porsche, and also while these guys are battling, that is allowing Joshua Worley to close down on the McLaren also. Porsche getting a really good exit out of La Source, coming down the hill before blasting right back up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Fantastic look at the elevation change from the rear wing of the Porsche. Side by side, almost between the McLaren and the Ford behind. This is a fantastic view of the battle going on behind, but the Ford just not quite having that straight line speed advantage over the McLaren to be able to pull up alongside into Lake Combe. I think McLaren really getting deep though on the brake. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the main issue is that the McLaren has the draft of the Porsche, and so does the Ford just behind, right? So the Ford doesn't quite have the advantage and not have, should the McLaren not have the Porsche in front to pull itself ahead, it would have been in a much more dangerous situation. Now they're 3 cars behind trying to battle for position. As we take a second to say, Pitts Motorsports, welcome, thank you for joining, thanks for the follow, hope you're doing well. Are you a sim racer as well, I would assume from your name? These guys in pretty close proximity of each other, but looks like Wix is managing to pull a bit of a gap. But when we look up front, someone who's not managing to walk away is Josh Mills from Matt Ardham. Now, unfortunately for Matt Ardham, that Lexus has incredible straight line speed, probably the top of the entire grid, and we could potentially see how fast they do get there. I don't know if I have a option to see what the fastest speeds are by these folk. It is not in my list of things that I could tell you.
Yeah, we can see here as they blast up the hill and go down the Kemmel Straight, we can see how big of a speed advantage that Lexus has. Not quite close enough, it doesn't seem like, to the Lamborghini of Chase Wright in front to get any sort of effect from the slipstream. There's a yellow flag waving, and these guys will have to take it pretty cautiously up the hill. It's a blind corner at the top of the crest, and if there's a car sitting there, you could absolutely collect it and ruin your race and the car ahead's race as well. But yeah, as you mentioned, that Lexus actually absolutely have an absolute bullet in a straight line, pulling away from the Audi, even though the Audi has that slipstream advantage. The 333 here of Don Donovan looking a little bit crunched.
Yeah, something happened to Don Donovan. I don't think we caught it in time enough to go back and see. There must have been a mistake. This to me feels like an Eau Rouge Radion situation. I'm sure if we wanted to, we could go back and look at the replay, but I want to guess that this is an Eau Rouge Radion for me.
Yeah, that's exactly where that yellow flag was, so most likely either some sort of incident with racing cars and getting involved in some sort of incident and getting punted into the wall to receive that front end damage, or whether there was just self-inflicted, because it's really easy to unsettle the car over the curbs at Eau Rouge, especially at the bottom part of the hill.
As these folks try to get past Don Donovan, doing a very kind and responsible thing, getting out of the way in the battle. And this is immense, intense, insane, in the brain. Chris Logan under immense amounts of pressure from Justin Brackett. Brackett having been overtaking quite some time back now. You know, typically when these type of things happen, the pace advantage becomes clear of the overtaking car, but not in this situation. They seem to be pretty well matched. Equal machinery, so no necessarily advantages there, and Justin Brackett very eager to try and keep it as tight as possible, if not even getting ahead of Chris Logan.
Yeah, we can see just ahead in the distance the McLaren pulling off a 1.8 second gap over Logan, so that's not going to help his chances at defending on the Kemmel Straight. He's not going to have that slipstream advantage from the wing of the McLaren ahead, so this really might give a good opportunity to Brackett to try and pull off some kind of move up the hill and into the braking zone at Lake Combe. We'll see if he can get it done on this lap as they absolutely rush down the hill out of La Source and change direction, left, right, and then left again, and then go back up the hill through the famous Eau Rouge Radion section. Will ride with the front bumper here, getting closer and closer and closer to the front bumper, pulling alongside to the inside, but very good on the brakes is Logan in the 261 Ford, and it looks like ahead Kelly was able to get through Hirsch, and now he takes 5th place in the race. But unfortunately for Justin Brackett here in the number 6, not quite able to get alongside his fellow Ford.
Yeah, we say quite often it is one thing to have pace and to be a hot lapper and have, you know, this ability to set whatever lap time that there is. It's a completely different thing to race in a race. Overtakes are very hard. You have to have immense knowledge and trust in your abilities, in your car, and its predictability to make moves stick and to make them work, especially if you're considering going offline. So it's kind of important to practice that for those who are new to racing as a whole, and really understand the different dynamics available to you, different options available to you to make things work for you in all variety of combinations.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it's very difficult to pass as well, because you might be stronger in one section of the track than the driver ahead, but they could just be absolutely parking the car at every single apex there is and not letting you by in those sections where you are faster. And that's ultimately just frustrating for the car behind, because you know you have the pace, but there's ultimately just nothing you can do because of fantastic positioning from the cars ahead defending.
And Kuja, what does it mean to park your car on the apex?
It's not necessarily parking to say like braking and slowing down. It's more so taking a slightly defensive line, and as you're going through the corner, really not letting that driver ahead any opportunity to cut in the inside of you for an up and over cut. Oh, a good battle ahead here between Hirsch. Oh, going a little bit wide through Radion. The Fords behind are going to try to take advantage of this opportunity. The 261 and the 6. Hirsch and Kelly battling up ahead, 4th, 5th place. That's unfortunate, and unfortunately Hirsch comes out the worst of the two, making a small mistake, but able to still hang on to 6th place.
There was contact between Hirsch and Kelly, and I thought they were both dead, but somehow they managed to survive. Now Logan being opportunistic, and so is Brackett, but that doesn't play out for Brackett, unfortunately. That was a bold move, a bold move. But as we were saying in the rookie series, the margins between hero and villain in the braking zones are paper thin. It is very difficult to get it right. When you do get it right, you are an absolute legend. But when you get it wrong, and it's not much difference between one and the other, oh boy, do you lose out.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw there Kyle Hirsch going a little bit wide at the final exit of Lake Combe, dipping a wheel into the gravel and having to try to have a really heavy braking zone opportunity to overtake on the outside of the 261, and he did a pretty good job of having a good overlap on the corner entry. It was just two cars turning into one corner, and unfortunately for Brackett, that door closed pretty quickly for him and he wasn't able to get through.
Yeah, all that being said, still great driving by the pack. For all to survive through that was incredible. I thought there was for sure someone ending up in the wall, especially with how grip limited your tires are at Eau Rouge and Radion. You're coming in at such incredible speed, and while there's a significant amount of downforce, when you get up the hill, you lose all that traction that you have, all that compression, and you are turning at the same time, so all that lateral force is going into your tires. And if someone encourages more lateral force by making contact side by side, now that's just not a very good equation for you.
Absolutely not, but yeah, like you said, very good for all the drivers to be able to escape without any major kind of damage. We see Brackett and Wicks in the pits now currently. Josh Worley is in the lead of the cars that have already come into the pit stop. in a net 14th, or in an overall 14th place at the moment. We'll see where those drivers end up towards the end of the race, as we are almost at the halfway mark. So we'll see just when people start coming into their pit stops. Maybe Brackett and Wicks will trigger a few more ahead to try and prevent any sort of undercut opportunity.
Yeah, so far, I was gonna say I'm trying to look for winners and losers of positions, but it's not quite the right time to do that, considering half the grid has pitted and the other half hasn't. But looking up front, Chandler Williams, just a walk in the park after the first challenge by Jace Wright. Williams getting comfortable and really finding his pace. Now 4.5 seconds ahead of Jace Wright. Jace Wright doing a good job in the Iron Dames 2024 car, creating a gap between himself and Josh Mills behind. Artem also in a bit of an island. As you can see on the map, these guys have managed to do quite a good job. We have an incident with 261 in the back here. Let's go and see what happened. Maybe we could... Oh, it's Logan. Oh,
yeah, Logan facing the wrong way, unfortunately turned into the wall. All the cars around him able to avoid the spun Mustang. We'll see if we can pick up exactly what happened here.
Oh no!
Oh!
Oh no! That was his own mistake.
A little bit, yeah, just the Porsche ahead getting a little bit unsettled over the curb. We couldn't quite find the traction, and the Ford just miscalculating the distance to the Porsche, just hitting it a little bit and unsettling his own car, and ultimately spinning out, unfortunately.
Yikes. And some more contact with the wall there, which I'm sure isn't something that he was wanting to do. The front end of that Mustang looking quite beat up, for lack of a better way of saying.
Yeah, a little bit scratched up. Hopefully not too much damage though for this pit stop if he does choose to fix the damage.
I'm gonna quote Kyle Hirsch's wife by saying, I think what happened was Chris just realized that wall was feeling a little lonely and just needed a hug. So went over there, gave him a good hug. Wall feels quite nestled now, and yeah, goes back to repair, and hopefully comes back out and fights for some more positions.
Yeah, pretty good decision to come into the pits on a lap where you may have already made, like, cost a bit of time. So ultimately we'll just have to wait and see where he comes out after the pit stop.
He's a giver. So I take it, Miss Racing, you are Chris Logan's significant other. A very giving driver. Love to the walls. Logan's wife. Awesome. Well,
yeah, good to see you. Yeah, good to see the support out here, supporting your husband, and yeah, supporting all the other fellow drivers out here too. Thank you all for tuning in.
Well, Miss Racing, I don't know if you knew, but unfortunately you just missed our friends and family swap race, which happened last week, I think. Last Wednesday? Yeah, I think it was last Wednesday, actually. A week ago today. And we all got together, and what we did was the significant others and family and friends, or whoever it was that don't usually drive the sim, got to lap for 10 minutes, and then we swapped the pros in the middle for 20 minutes, and then all the amateurs ended the last 10 minutes. And it's kind of cool. My wife drove, Kyle Hirsch's wife drove, and we had a bunch of other wives and friends that joined us, and they actually have been driving a little bit more recently. The wife's been asking to drive, so if you are interested, you should join our Discord, and we could make a little wives club. Well, that's the thing, is there literally are no expectations. We just tell people to go out and have some fun, and oh no, things going from bad to worse for Chris Logan as he gets a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane, most likely.
Yeah, unfortunate for Chris Logan after that incident, coming into the pit stop, now having to serve a drive-through. Unfortunately, Spa is one of those tracks where the pit lane is extremely long, so a drive-through penalty is very, very costly.
Yeah, that is super, super unfortunate for Chris Logan as Justin Brackett. How did Justin Brackett end up so far back? He didn't have any. Oh, I don't think Logan repaired any of his damage. That's probably why. But yeah, it came in too hot. That's unfortunate. But Mr. Racing, you need to join us for some wives driving fun, because we do not have any expectations. It is super fun. We have some good laughs. We have some great quotes, like from Kyle Hirsch's wife, who loves hugging walls. And you are welcome to come hug walls with us. Oh my goodness, where is he going? What happened? Change camera. Where did Chris Logan go? Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah, just getting a little bit tap and then getting those wheels onto the grass, really unsettling that Ford. And yeah, just a big, big crunch into the wall for Chris Logan, unfortunately.
I think Chris is just feeling quite giving today. With wife in chat, just want to show his empathetic side and really show those walls how much they are loved and hugged and appreciated. And Chris, we appreciate you for that.
Yeah, that's just the nature of racing. Some days it goes your way, and some days it's just a lot of small things add up, and then yeah, just unfortunate racing. But I'm sure he'll be back next week and ready to compete once again.
Hopefully, for sure. Well, some more racing to be had. We are over halfway, and these cars are still pretty close to each other now. The ones that are the closest here are between Danny Campbell, Curtis Rustin, and Daniel Hirsch. Oh no! Oh no! No! Oh, goes from worst to worster and worstest. What is going on? Goodness me.
Yeah, that was quite the incident there. Unfortunately, just one car spinning around, causing other cars to spin around, and other cars behind just simply could not avoid the carnage in front and crashing in. This all started in front with the McLaren going a little bit wide, maybe trying to cut back a little bit of speed, and then just gets a slight tap from the Ferrari, goes into the Porsche goes into the Ferrari, makes a V-shape for the BMW, which it could not escape from, and then ultimately the white Porsche behind getting collected as well. My goodness.
Unfortunate. I was trying to say something else, but it wasn't something I wanted to say, so we'll say unfortunate. Wow.
Yeah, just not much a lot of the drivers behind could do about that. Oh, goodness me! Getting the braking zone. Well, I'm not sure if that was a wheel getting onto the grass and just slipping off. Yeah, it looked like it. Unfortunately for Hirsch, it looked like he just dipped a wheel into the grass before the braking zone, and that really unsettled the Porsche. And into the pits he goes to most likely fix a few repairs, the bumper looking a little bit scratched and banged.
Now, what's really unfortunate for Dan Hirsch, Dan the Dynamite Hirsch here, is that he's already pitted. So this is going to be a lot of pit time and repair time that he wasn't expecting. And considering that he's already in 15th, that is not a good outlook for him. That being said, we have more racing happening as we see brother Hirsch, Kyle, Porsche on Porsche battle between himself and Darren Wicks. Side by side, Kyle does manage to muscle his way through as Darren just tucks behind. Now, I don't know who has the greater pace. I think Kyle was a bit farther ahead in qualifying, probably around 5th, whereas Darren was closer to 8th, if I remember correctly. But by golly, these guys are going for every single position possible.
Yeah, it seems that the white Porsche of Kyle Hirsch was a little bit more involved in that incident we saw than Darren Wicks. He was able to get through pretty cleanly, and unfortunately for Kyle, just got behind. Here's a battle for the lead. Jace Wright bullying his way through the bus stop chicane, and that's going to give Chandler Williams the position for the lead. There was a change in the lead after the pit stops. Jace Wright was actually the lead car after both of these drivers made their pit stops, but now Chandler Williams able to get through again with a good move on the outside of the bus stop.
Yeah, Jace is going to have a bit of an advantage should that Lamborghini hold up in having the draft, the slipstream behind the Mustang. The Mustang has incredible straight line speed, so really Jace looking for a great exit out of Radion there, tucks in behind the Mustang. Is he going to be able to close up that gap? Is he going to do a send up into the corner here of Lacombe on the outside, but too late in braking, and then cuts the corner. Let's give the position back. Chandler just takes it back up into P1. Jace Wright still trying to battle and find some magic to try and regain that P1 position.
Just a little bit too late on the brakes of the outside of the first corner of Lacombe, not able to get the car slowed down in time to make the corner, having to cut through onto the sausage curbs and ultimately costing him just a little bit of time, but still pretty close to the back of Chandler Williams in the lead in that 33 Mustang.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, he has dropped out of the slipstream range, now over 1 second behind. But while these two are settling down a bit, we still have battles going on between Kyle Hirsch and Darren Wicks. Darren Wicks has managed to get himself back up ahead of Kyle Hirsch, presumably from an error of some sort. Now both battling, but having to worry about Dan Campbell up ahead. If they are closing the gap, Darren Wicks is going to have eyes both in the front of his head and the back of his head, try and make sure he keeps Kyle behind and figure out a way to get around Dan, if at all possible.
Yeah, these three seem to have pretty similar pace right now on track with just over 16 minutes to go in the race. We'll see if these two Porsches can get pretty close to the tail of the McLaren ahead and try to make any sort of moves possible in the closing stages of the race. One driver yet to make their pit stop in 5th place. It's Watt in the 410 Ferrari, so pulling up, trying to go a little bit long in his first stint of the race here. We've seen him do this in a few previous races, and it can work in the end as some drivers get involved in incidents, as we've seen, and just kind of racing his own race at the moment.
Yeah, impressive, doing a great job, and is going to have to do an even better job to ensure that he keeps Darren Wicks behind, because Darren is gaining on him and dropping Kyle. And we have a comment in chat. Kuja, you just got called a handsome commentator, because there's no way that comment was for me.
Oh, I don't know how they could guess that based on me not really being visible, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
The voice tells all, Kuja. The voice tells all. Yeah, again, Darren Wicks doing a great job getting closer and closer. Welcome, Jake Wells. Hope you are having a fantastic evening. How is it going? Did you stream today? Are you going to stream? Why aren't you racing with us? Because you should be in here battling for the lead, as Chandler Williams is now 1.6 seconds ahead of Jace Wright. We miss you. Where are you? Rod Skyhook in chat, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Rod. Spart. Yeah, Jake, explain yourself. Where have you been? Why'd you get home so late? Who have you been cheating on us with? What other league have you been looking at? What's its name? What's the community's name? Tell me. I will go have a word with them.
We need our Jake Wells back.
Oh, smart. Come on. Oh, that's awesome. Where'd you get your new job at? I know you were interviewing and had a bit of a change. So that's exciting. Darren Wicks continuing to battle, continuing to try and find opportunities now. Kyle Hirsch is going to be super excited about this. Two cars battling typically slows down. Are you kidding, Jake? Oh, that's crazy. Jake was but a couple of hours away from me, and now seems to have moved to Florida. What a life change. Well, Jake, hope everything is going well. Wish you the best in this new chapter. A new chapter that Darren Wicks is looking for. An opportunity, an advancement, just like Jake Wells has found in real life. That was a pretty good segue, Kuja. I don't know. I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty impressed by that one myself.
That was great. Yeah, I like that. That was great. Yeah, we see here Darren Wicks still hanging on to the wing of the McLaren ahead. Not really able to find any way by. Campbell doing a great job staying ahead, making sure he gets the traction down where it matters, and not giving any sort of looks to the Porsche of Wicks behind.
Yeah, Wicks getting closer and closer. That Porsche is going to be incredible on exit speeds. Not so great on top speed, but yeah, looking quite well. This middle portion of the lap is going to be where the Porsche is going to shine. But I don't know if the McLaren's still OP. The McLaren has been quite dominant over the last, let's say 6 months plus probably in the recent updates. But Porsche doing a pretty good job of keeping tight with Dan Campbell.
Yeah, very good job from Wicks. Also, at the same time, being able to pull a near 2 second gap to Hirsch behind, who he was battling earlier. So can almost kind of forget about the Porsche behind and just worry about the McLaren in front. We mentioned earlier it was going to be interesting to see where people come out after their pit stops. I remember Worley was one of the first guys to stop, and he has now benefited from coming in a little bit early and is now in 5th place overall. But this battle here is probably one of the closest we've got on track, so we'll see if the Porsche can get any closer to the McLaren. But as we said, the McLaren doing a fantastic job of just running away from the Porsche where it needs to.
Yeah, there is another battle brewing between Anthony Kelly and Josh Worley for P5. Now is the time for us to see positions gained most. Josh Worley up 10 positions from the start of the race, so this is going to be a really tough battle for for him to hold Anthony Kelly back, because Anthony Kelly started in P6 and is currently in P6, so Josh Worley is going to have to fight tooth and nail for the next 11 minutes to try and keep ahead. A good thing for Kelly is that Mustang does have pretty good speed in the straight line, but I don't know, this is going to be a tough one for Worley to hold.
Yeah, he got a little bit wiggly on the exit at the top of the hill. This might give Kelly an advantage to the inside of Lake Combe. Is he going to send it? He does. They go side by side through the first part. Can the Mustang hold the inside in the next part of the corner? No, it can't. Great move from Kelly in the braking zone of the first part of Lake Combe. Able to stick it around the outside of the second part, and now comfortably ahead down the hill ahead of the Ford behind.
Yeah, unfortunately for Worley, that breaking point was just a tad too late, and that's exactly what we were talking about, Kuja, earlier, in that you really have to figure out all the different combinations and optimize your line in many varieties, not just the perfect racing line, but what if there's someone next to you? What if you have to come in shallow? What if you have to come in wide, right? Think of all the possibilities and really try to maximize speed, and that's what Kelly did, and unfortunately that's a position lost for Worley. However, that being said, he is still 9 positions ahead of where he qualified, which is an immense performance.
Yeah, good job from Worley, able to keep out of trouble. We didn't really mention his name much up until now, so that's kind of not necessarily the worst thing, just kind of racing their own race and minding their own business and gaining positions as quietly as they possibly can.
Yeah. Just reading chat here. Also still speaking with Next Level Racing. Thanks for the food word. Yeah, I told them what a peach you were. I told them you were a little buttercup. You're a little pumpkin. Yeah, these guys doing an incredible job battling. And Wicks now being challenged by Justin Brackett. Where did Brackett come from? Having overtaken Hirsch. No, that's not Brackett. What are the timing charts telling me? It is Brackett, but okay, here we go. updating as they cross the start-finish line. So, yeah, Darren Wicks still chasing down Campbell, but now Brackett a part of the equation, and we'll have a draft on the straight. That is going to be not something that, goodness, I keep mixing the names, that Wicks is going to want to see. Wicks and Worley and Brackett and Hirsch and Freeman and Anthony and Watt side by side now. That Mustang is going to have the straight line advantage, but I'm sure Wicks is going to want to keep it as competitive as possible. Sends it on the outside. A bit of a loss of the rear for Wicks, and that is a move for Justin Brackett and makes that stick. That was very, very beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely textbook move there. The Porsche giving him just enough room on the outside to make that move. It goes a little bit deep into the corner down the hill, though, but not quite giving any sort of advantage to the Porsche behind. Yeah, good move there from the Ford, recovering very well after having a little bit of an off earlier in that same corner. We saw him go a little bit wide, but able to recover well. Now into 9th place, going to try to chase down the McLaren of Campbell in front. 1.2 seconds to catch up bumper of the McLaren, but it's a whole other thing to pass in the last 7 minutes of the race.
Yeah, immense battle still. This is still the tightest battle on track. Jake, have a good night, Buttercup. I'll catch up with you soon, I'm sure. Find out how things are going and what's going on. Sad that you won't be able to visit the track days anymore because you're not as close. But it's okay. I hope things work out for the best, as I'm sure Brackett is going to be hoping as well as he looks ahead to try and chase down Campbell for P8.
Yes, a good 4-car battle we have here from Campbell to Hirsch. It could be anyone's position for P8. Hirsch at the back of this train in 11th place, going to try to stay as close as he possibly can in case these 3 guys ahead of him get involved in any kind of battles or maybe unfortunate incidents. If that is the case, Hirsch is going to try to stay as close as he can and just pick up any sort of positions he can towards the end of the race. At the moment, though, it doesn't seem like anyone is quite close enough to the bumper of the car ahead, but anything can change as they go up the hill through Radion. McLaren getting a good exit. Justin Brackett trying his very best to catch up to that McLaren. The McLaren doesn't have any sort of slipstream ahead, has a really big gap ahead on track to the next car, so the Ford has a really big benefit from that slipstream.
Yeah, and the Mustang does have incredible straight line speed as well, and this isn't the only battle that's on track, as I'm sure Justin Brackett's going to continue to watch ahead, but looks like Josh Mills and Matt Artem are very close to Jace Wright. Jace Wright probably suffering from some tires, I would guess, and that straight line speed of that Lexus is going to be incredibly hard to defend as they go on to the Camel Straight around the other side of the track. Jace is way too far back from Chandler Williams. 8-second gap to have any slipstream advantage. So he is on the back foot. Mills, only thing that's probably going to be saving him is the pressure from Artem just behind. But Artem isn't quite close enough to have Mills worried, I don't think. And I do want to see how this works out with them going around La Source, needing a perfect exit, as every single mile an hour that they gain on the exit of that corner is carried all the way through Eau Rouge Radion and all the way through the Camel Straight. And this is going to be something that I would be super excited about if I were Mills, because he is going to be eating up that gap onto the straight. But is it going to be enough?
We see here he's getting closer and closer, but the Lamborghini not even shaping up any sort of defensive position, so he's not worried about the Lexus making a move quite yet. Should be quite a battle as There should only be about 2 or 3 laps to go. Here we have Darren Wicks sending it down the inside of Dan Campbell. The McLaren losing a few places. Brackett in the 6th Mustang able to get through and now trying to run away from this battle. We tuned in just as Darren Wicks had a fantastic move down the inside of La Source. Can he keep the position through Eau Rouge and Radion? Having to cut the corner at the top of the hill. The McLaren getting a little loose at the bottom, but still the same positions as they were out of La Source. The Porsche of Kyle Hirsch getting very close to the bumper of the McLaren, pulling up alongside into Lake Combe, but the McLaren very deep and very good on the brakes, almost seems to run into the Porsche ahead, but now out of position for the final part of Lake Combe. They're going to go side by side through the final exit of Lake Combe, down the hill. Who's going to be the best on the brakes? Is it going to be the Porsche on the outside? No, it's the McLaren sending it through the inside and keeps 10th place.
Yeah, Dan Campbell is not going to be happy about the 2 losses that he had in position, but he's not going to want to lose another one, so I am sure he's going to fight very, very firmly to try and maintain that P10 position. There's something about top 10. It might not be 1 and might not be 2. Might not be 3, but top 5 and top 10 is something you kind of imaginatively battle for, I feel. And I'm sure Dan Campbell's going to want to keep that P10 position over Kyle Hirsch.
Yeah, we always hear from F1 you want to finish in that top 10 position to get some kind of championship points, so it kind of translates down to even sim racing here, where you are racing for points still, but you just really want to get as high up as you can, especially in this championship, as here the McLaren goes a little bit wide onto the curbing, costing him the exit out of the curve. Paul Frere, and now down to Blanchimont. The Porsche is going to stay ahead, but will the McLaren be close enough to pull off any kind of move into the bus stop chicane? Looking like it got a little bit unsettled through the corner behind the dirty air of the Porsche, and that is a good move from Hirsch to go through and capitalize on the mistake of Campbell.
Yeah, I think you're right. I got nervous because I did see a bit of a slide, and that's again one of those things where Blanchimont is put your money where your mouth is, and really got to commit. And looks like Dan Campbell's commitment was there, even though his car looked like was potentially in a 4-wheel slide. Just put the foot on the floor and continued to go. Unfortunately, lost the position, but is still driving and not facing the wrong way on the track. Now, that being said, these guys are getting ever so close. Jace Wright still trying to defend against Josh Mills and Matt Artem, and having to deal with some traffic of Potts Weaver just ahead. Pit window closing down for no last lap pit shenanigans as we saw last week. However, Potts Weaver trying to do his best to get out of the way, but not quite so, causing a real situation here for Jace Wright. Unfortunately for him, Mills and Matt Artem are right there now, and they are gonna have maybe a speed advantage, but not really, because now the Lamborghini has the draft of the Mustang up ahead. Now, I don't understand what Potts is doing here. Being a lap down, defending, maybe thinks he is in a race with them. I'm not quite sure, but manages to get out of the way.
Yeah, it's always tricky when there's a 3-car battle. Like, you want to let people through as fast as possible, but you also want to let all 3 through at all 3 of your competitors through at a good opportunity, so that way you don't cost one driver or the other that position. As we are now at zeros on the race clock, that means this is going to be the last lap of the race for all of these drivers. Chandler Williams firmly in the lead with an 11.8 second gap over this 3-car battle we have for the last 2 positions of the podium. Currently Jace Wright in that 24 Lamborghini in second place. Josh Mills trying to get close, but it is Matt Artem at the moment who is the closest to try and pull off a move into La Source, but all 3 cars not giving any sort of slipstream advantage to the competitor behind, and we are still in the same order as we started the lap. Josh Mills going to try and stay as close as he can to the bumper of Jace Wright in case there's any sort of wiggle or mistake from the Lamborghini.
Yeah, Jace has quite a bit of experience gonna have a pretty level head, but is that machinery under him gonna be enough to defend this position? The only thing that's working for him, like I said, is that Josh is now at a point where he's gonna have to worry about Matt Artem just behind. Artem, very talented driver, gonna put a lot of pressure, super aggressive, is gonna wanna gain those positions, but is it enough? Does he have, do either one of them, do any of them have enough to make it stick and make it work?
Yeah, Josh Mills in a pretty difficult position being in the middle. If he sends it too far aggressively on the car ahead, that could open up the gap and cost him that podium place to Artem behind. So this is going to be the last real good overtaking opportunity for any of these cars. Flat through the curve, Paul Frere as they approach Blanchimont, the very fast, flat left-hander in these GT3 cars. But it doesn't look like that Lexus is quite close enough yet. The Lamborghini runs pretty wide though. Might pick up a track limit violation for that, but it doesn't matter because it is the end of the race. Chandler Williams crosses the line, 22 laps completed, and a dominant victory for him in the number 33 as Jace Wright crosses the line here in second place, able to defend from Mills in the Lexus, and just behind him, Matt Artem in the 414 Audi.
Yeah, that was fantastic from the group. Ooh, hold on a second. It's not over yet. Looks like Brackett's made a mistake and let both Campbell and Hirsch through. There's a lot of damage on that car.
Oh, unfortunately for Brackett, yeah, that looks like a really big damage on the front of the Mustang.
What happened?
Not quite sure if this is the moment, as that car already looks pretty damaged. Just running a little bit wide here. Yeah, that car is already pretty beat up as it goes through turn 16. Yeah, I don't think we were quite able to pick up what happened there. Unfortunately for Brackett, losing a few positions at the end with that damage he picked up.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Goodness, all that work that he did to gain those positions just lost in a moment, unfortunately, and Brackett back down the order, unfortunately. A couple of cars left to finish the race. We got 48 of Dan Hirsch coming through. Alex Freeman.
Yeah, good recovery after not starting. I believe he missed qualifying and just rejoined late in the race and started from 19th on the grid, so good for him to stay in the race and climb up those positions. And the lone Honda on the grid at the 664. Devin Anthony negotiating the last few corners, coming up to the checkered flag now. And that is this 50-minute race complete.
You know, I suspect that Alex maybe had a disconnect of some sort. Not quite sure what, but...
Yeah, we saw that happen earlier in the week as well in the Monday races, so yeah, it's very possible.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That is the race for the evening. Let's get back into the studio and see if we can
Green light. Go, go, go.
get our folks here for some interviews. Okay, no one's here just yet. Let's see if we can wrangle up some drivers. Pooja, I thought we were gonna slow down at some point in time in the race, but wasn't quite the case, was it?
No, there was just a moment during where all the drivers were cycling through their pit stops, but as soon as all of that stopped, the action just kept going and going.
Yeah, that was exciting. I am trying to get these guys in the PC for an interview. All right, let's see if they join. Well, that was a pretty fun race. Yeah, like I said, I thought they were going to separate quite a bit through the race, but they came back, and it was kind of impressive to see Jace Wright even challenge for the lead at a certain point in time after the pit stops. He must have had a really, really good pit stop. And And yeah, tried to do something with it, but wasn't quite enough. Light to the World Racing, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. Unfortunately, we don't have too much longer as we just finished our West Coast Wednesday League race here at Spa-Francorchamps. But you are in time for us to interview P2, Jace Wright. Jace, you did go in for a challenge for that top position halfway through the race, but just quite couldn't get it done. Tell us a little bit about that.
I was in a bit of a pickle for strategy because of how my pace was in the first stint. I knew that Chandler was gonna take tires because he pulled a 5 second gap on me, and I wasn't sure if Josh was gonna take tires because when he went for his pit, he wasn't 5 seconds. Like I wasn't 5 seconds ahead of him. So if he did, then he would have he would be further back behind. But if he didn't, he would come out closer to me. So I chose not to take tires. And in hindsight, I'd still say that's the correct decision. But you saw my second stint, I was losing a lot of time.
So is that what happened, Josh? Is that what you decided to do at the end of the day?
I ended up getting tires. It's kind of been my go-to strategy so far this season. Just take the 5 seconds, and just run with the new tires. Just that was a good race. I didn't know you were on old tires, so you did a good job to hold on to that, Jace.
Yeah, that was impressive. Good defensive work. And Josh, how was it from your seat? Because I know you were chasing down Jace, but you also had Matt Artem to worry about just behind.
Yeah, I didn't feel too much pressure from behind. That Audi is fast in the corners, but the Lexus just had the legs down the straight, so I was able to kind of maintain that gap in a safe way, I guess you could say. But he was right there the whole time, so no mistakes, no more track cuts. running up against that track cut limit with like 30 minutes to go was tough.
Well, you did a fantastic job. You put a lot of pressure onto Jace, but just wasn't quite enough to make that move work. Gentlemen, good job on the P2, P3 on the podium. Great racing. It was really fun to watch, and look forward to seeing you back next week.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, Kuja, that is another fantastic stream. Do you have any closing words?
Yeah, just thanks to everybody for participating. Thanks to you guys for watching. Thank you guys for chatting, entertaining us while there were a bit of lulls in the race. But yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Now, I've been trying to look for a raid, and looks like Logan is staying on and doing some iRacing. So let's go say what's up to Logan. Unfortunately for him, he did not end up finishing the race, but you know what, was probably the nicest person in the race in that he gave a lot of hugs to a lot of walls, and we do appreciate that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope you had a great evening. Enjoyed the race. Kuja, thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you to all our drivers for putting on a fantastic show, and our community as a whole. I am Eric Ocasian, and I bid you a good night, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and we'll see you next time.